You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello there, Michael. Well, no, I'm doing really well, so hopefully things are going well for you over there too. Yeah, I did hear about that. They released him, and then not long after that, he died. So I guess all our pain and suffering is over. But there's a lot of things that go through people's minds, and it just doesn't sit right with them. And I do have a history with that particular case, and it does bother me that it would take something this drastic to get people to react. Yeah, they're looking into doing a bill that would make it more difficult to release specifically serial rapists, and eventually they're going to be putting things out there too that's going to put limits on restrictions for other releases and even convictions. And I know some of the stuff they do at the time sounds good, but if you look down the line in 50 years and you have somebody who's worse than Kevin Coe that will maybe attack twice as many women and then get convicted, and maybe the situation changes. It could be that this person um, maybe improves, apologizes to the victims, does some community work, serves maybe half his life in prison. And the people could look at it and think this person should be released, especially if the person's up there in age. Maybe this person is looking to get out at 90 years old and is severely handicapped. I think situations like that might show that the public sympathy is a little bit different because this person learned what he was supposed to learn while locked up. And these correction centers, especially the hospitals, they're designed to help people to get to the point where they can get back in the community and not want to commit a crime. And if we keep slapping it in the face, because with Kevin Coe, once he committed his last rape, it didn't happen anymore. They were able to catch him, lock him up, and then even when they released him, with all of the fighting they did over that, he didn't commit any more rapes, and he died. And that's what we want the system to do. And I'm hoping stories like this, when it comes up to convict somebody, and usually it's like for a violent crime, that we can consider what you guys are going through and what the prison is like. Yeah, I know. I try to let folks know that you have a right to medical care,
You have 60 seconds remaining.
not just putting a band-aid on an open wound, but more or less treating for an infection, doing an x-ray to make sure there's no deeper damage in there, and follow-up stuff. And then as far as insurance, oh my goodness, that's just a big thing going on out here. And you guys really suffer in the prison when it comes to that. And we need to keep an eye on
You have 30 seconds remaining.
providing the right stuff for you guys. And if the public is aware where their tax money is going, because I know in the state of Washington, they will vote down emergency protective services just to avoid paying taxes. And to be wasting money in prison, why? We need this budget thing put out to the public regularly. Okay, yep, it's the end of the road. So,
Thank you for using inmate call. Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to AQS Inmate Call, and I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. And in this episode, I would like to share my experiences with people who get out of prison. Now, I know a few violent criminals, and these are criminals who have committed murder, and some of them like serial murders. And I am particularly interested in those that use the system, gain from the system, and then they're released never to commit a crime again. I really encourage people to get out and not do it. Now, I don't want some of the most notorious criminals out there that we hear about, if they had captured the serial killers from years ago that we read about, where there's unsolved crimes or something like that, like Jack the Ripper. If they caught him, he should pretty much be locked away forever. And talking to the person, working with the person, that person could manipulate the system. So that's why going on an individual basis is the best thing. But who knows? Things could change, especially when it gets to the point where their health is just beyond repair. And I don't see why a person should just cost the taxpayers so much money to be locked away when it would be a lot easier just to put the person out. Pretty much just not even go back and be overly concerned about any chance of recommitting the crime, because that's what the correctional center is supposed to be for, to prevent the crime from committing again, from occurring again. If the person goes blind in prison, or if the person becomes bedridden, and I don't really like to use age against people that tend to get older in prison, where they're not as active and get the medical attention that a lot of us get out here. They may pick up some ailments like Alzheimer's. That's something that's kind of hard to recover from, or maybe they might pick up cancer. Because when my ex-fiance was in prison, she picked up cancer. They were pretty much the cause of that, and they were found guilty, and she was able to win a $9.9 million lawsuit. And my argument was, why keep her in the prison when she's got cancer? Because it's going to cost a lot of money to care for her. They pretty much treated her, gave it to her. And I don't think she's going to be wanting to go out and start committing crimes when she's concerned about her health. And eventually we were able to convince them of that, and they just let her out on clemency. So my concern here is Kevin Coe, back in the 70s and the 80s. He was suspected of violently raping as many as 40 women and girls as young as 14 years old before he was arrested in 1981 and ultimately found guilty of first-degree rape. Now, he was sentenced to 25 years, and I was on the jury that when he was supposed to get out, we voted to keep him in because his actions just didn't fit rehabilitation. He didn't, when he was locked up, he refused treatment, and he never apologized or showed remorse. This man was just, he could walk on water. And I wasn't too impressed with him in the court. And the victims, even after all those years, rape isn't something that you just forget about. And so even though he served his time, I felt bad locking him up again. But I thought this was the best for the community and for him. And he should have, after all this time, at least apologized to somebody. But he was looking at them when they were on the stand in such a way, and he was even mumbling things and still calling them names. So that didn't impress me at all. And when the testimony got in and the witnesses, when we sit in jury, you discuss all that stuff. And we just decided that the evidence against him being re-released or being released at that time wasn't the best option. So now the state of Washington, some of the senators in there propose a bill aiming to make it state release of serial rapists a little more difficult. What they want to do is, if a person is convicted of something like serial rapist, or serial rape, we should say. And they're committed to the Special Commitment Center on McNeil Island in Puget Sound. They want to make it so that to make it harder for DSHS, who was the one that released them, or other state agencies to release people guilty of such heinous crimes, they need to place public safety above the freedom of serial rapists who are unrepentant to the end. And then after the news of Coe's release, several of the victims approached this senator who's proposing this and told him how angry they were about it. And this is a paraphrase of what the press release on this. Now, Kevin Coe, he was released after they said, he's a senior citizen, his age, his demeanor and stuff. He's not going to do this again. But he got out and he briefly lived in an adult family home in Federal Way, Auburn, and then he went back to Federal Way, Washington, and then he died on December 3rd. And that's where I want to emphasize this. I will put this bill out there. And with modern technology, especially DNA, getting away with serial rape is a little more difficult. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's not as easy as it was back in the 80s. And so I look at this and think, okay, you want to protect the community, which means when these people are in prison, it can cost upwards of $100,000 a year for these people to stay locked up and to get this treatment. You're paying psychologists, you're paying for the room and board, and you're their upkeep. And even if let's say these people are truly violent and don't give up, and they're killing people in prison or raping people in prison or even destroying public property, you have to look at the dangers of keeping people locked away for so long, for decades. Is it beneficial? And when people are considering cost-saving measures, if you were in charge of this organization, would you be throwing money out like that? Would it be worth it? Now, of course, public safety, there is no cap on what you spend on it. But when you look at the individual situations, hopefully when people go to these sessions and they're planning these bills, they'll look at the long-term care, personally, I don't think it's worth it to keep a person locked away for so long. And I know people, you'll see it on movies and you'll see people actually when you're talking to the victims or when you're watching an interview or something, say, I hope this person dies in prison or this person doesn't deserve to be out on the streets anymore. And they could say that about anybody because at the time they're very hurt. But then as time goes by and people have been in there 80 years, what's going on? What would cause harm to the community when this person approaching 100 now? And to bring up this bill after all those years, is it going to be effective? Will people feel safer? And that's just things I want people to think about when they're going forward. I work with people that's been in prison for maybe a couple of decades or so, and they'll get out and we talk constantly about not going back. And the time I know them, they don't. There's people that you work with, people that you see on the streets, or maybe you're on a bus with them or other public transportation. And these people could be convicted felons. Some of them could have killed several people. Now, I'm not talking about veterans, people that go to a war and kill folks over there. I'm talking about the people that were convicted of a crime. And it's not something they particularly want to broadcast because public tends to put great shame on that. Even if the person has been out for 30 years and hasn't committed any serious crimes, we still hang that over them every opportunity we can get. So to let the system work the way it should, the correctional center do the correction, and then to let the people get out and then be hit again and live with that for the rest of their life is not fair. Why have a correctional center? Why put them people in there if we're not going to use it for what it was designed to do? And I hope this isn't a precedent. The Kevin Coe inspired bill. I hope this doesn't lead to reasons to keep people locked up across the board. Let's look at the individual cases. If anything in these bills should say that the people should get a special committee that reviews it and makes a suggestion to the judge or the jury. And maybe these people should get a chance to go back to court. We're going to release this person. This bill requires us to go through this process. And if these professionals get up and say, this person is not going to commit this crime again, and it's, of course, that specific crime, because A serial rapist like Kevin Coe, he didn't kill anybody. And they're thinking he's going to get out and rape people again. And the expert said, no, he's not. He could get out, or someone like him could get out after being convicted of serial rape and then become a serial killer or become a drug dealer. So you have a bill that's specifically designed to prevent the community from dealing with these serial rapists again. But what about the other crimes these people can commit? A lot of folks, when they do commit a crime, it's not just one crime for the rest of their life. It could be several. And that's something we need to look into as well. Well, I hope you discuss this with senators and representatives and community leaders or your family, coworkers, neighbors, your friends, so that together we can do the right thing. We want to protect our community, but we also want to let people know that if things are bad in their life and they do commit crimes, all is not lost. And this can help prevent things too, because a child who sees a person like Kevin Coe get convicted, go to prison, and then come out a changed man, that can show them that whatever they go through, they can talk to people, they can work it out, and maybe they can get through the situation. But if they got that fear that they're going to be locked away for the rest of their life, they'll get to that point where they don't want to follow any of the rules or to seek help. They just want to let out their anger. They just want to do the thing that they do. So that's what I'd like people to discuss. And I think that would really help. Hopefully it will, but I could be wrong. Well, go out, have yourself a marvelous day, and make excellent memories for tomorrow.